We're super excited you're here. FYI, this webinar is being recorded and there are live transcriptions. So if you do need them, there you can enable them on the bottom. My name is Christian Lipton. I'm here with Jade. She's going to be our guest speaker today. We're going to allow a little more time for people to come in and be here for the event. But I want to know how everyone's feeling. Drop it in the chat. Let me know if you're excited, what you want to see. And if you have any questions for her that you didn't get to submit earlier, just put them in the Q&A section as well. But yeah, we're excited for the event and we hope you all are too. In the meantime, can I? And welcome everybody. We're just letting it fill in a little more. We'll be starting in about 2 minutes. Again, if you have any questions that you didn't get to ask prior, drop it in the Q&A section. We'll be getting it to it throughout the event. But yeah, let's get hyped. We're super excited. We've been waiting for this one for a little while now. Great tips and tricks in order to improve your page, make it seem a lot better. Jade's a beast over here, one of our CSUN student professionals. She's going to be taking great care of you all. So we can't wait. Give it another 1 or 2 minutes before we get started. Thank you all for waiting. Again, the event is being recorded and there are live transcriptions available if you need them. Transcriptions are down there on the bottom. Yeah. Any questions, drop them in the Q&A. But yeah, so seems like we're about time to get started here. So I'll introduce myself and what the event's looking like. So yeah, as I said, my name is Christian Lipton. I'm the host here for So You Want to Be Social. This is a new event we have here over at AS Productions. Little tips and tricks videos on how to improve your page. And with me is the great Jade. She'll be taking care of you all today, teaching you all some photo editing tips and tricks, photography how-tos and whatnot. So I'll pass it over to Jade.
Hi guys, my name is Jade Slayman. I'm currently a junior at CSUN, majoring in computer information technology with a minor in entertainment media management. And just like Christian said, I'm here to help you guys learn about photo tips and tricks. And then also, if you have any questions for me, go and drop it down in that Q&A so we could get to it. All right.
Yeah, so Jay's going to be setting up. First, she's going to be talking about a quick little setups on how she organizes her photos, tips on how to take better photos and what themes and presets she uses. They'll be followed by a couple live tutorials where she's going to be editing photos for us all. So with that, Jay, take it away.
All right, let me go and share my screen here. All right, so I'm first going to go show you guys my screen. And don't mind that. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to first show you guys how to open a project in Lightroom. So go ahead and open up Lightroom. And then the first thing you're going to see is this side panel. And you can open that up by using that or pressing the letter P on your keyboard. After that, you're going to go and open up this side, create albums and folders. You want to go ahead and create a folder because folders are easier to use. And then you can go and name it whatever you'd like. I'm going to use webinar. We're going to open that one up and create an album. And I'll call that CSUN. All right, now that we have our little folder and album here, we're going to go and add some photos. I already pre-chose some photos to show you guys today. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in. And then this is just to show that it's previously added, so I can't add it again, but these are copies, so I can go ahead and add these in. I'll just grab these. I'll show you guys these from one of my previous things. Oh. Just kidding. I said not today. All right, then I'll just go and show you guys from the actual albums. But that's how to create an album and then to add your photos. There we go. All right, so first things first is I just wanted to show you guys or tell you guys a little bit about cameras, like which ones to use and like what to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen real quick. Oops. All right, before we jump into the whole Lightroom and how to use that, let's start with the basics, which cameras to use. Now, of course, any camera on your phone is super simple. It's great to use. The new iPhone Pros are pretty good. They take almost high quality photos for your everyday usage, Instagram posts and stuff. This is one of the more professional cameras I have. It is a Canon EOS Rebel T7. And then the lens I have on it right now is an 18 to 55 millimeter. It's a macro lens. And then I also carry an extension lens for zoom photos, which is a 75 to 300 millimeter lens. So you can go ahead and pop that on. And then for like little videos and vlogs I create, a smaller camera like the EOS M50 is really good because if you pop out the back, you can see yourself while you're recording. And then it just has a standard 15 to 45 millimeter lens. So really tiny, but it's really good. It has great quality. And then I just added this little microphone so that the sound turns out better. All right, so now that we've got the cameras all set together, tips on how to take better photos. Basically, the most basic how to take better photos is just make sure that your subject is clear and in focus, and make sure that you have the proper lighting so that it doesn't look too dark. But then I'll go and show you guys in Lightroom how to like change photos that are too dark. And then another thing is make sure there's no distracting items in the background, because people that view photos literally think that as long as the subject is in focus and the background is blurred, it's a professional photo. So that's all you got to worry about. Kind of like Christian's little zoom icon there. On top of that, let's see, I'm going to go over what themes are and kind of like how to use that in your editing. So let's go ahead and jump into Lightroom again. All right, for those of you guys that missed it, we just created an album over here. For some reason, it wasn't going to let me add any photos. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys from the originals I have. I'm going to go in and open up this subject over here. And this is already post edited, but you could tell the subject is clear, the background is blurred, and then also there's no distracting items in the back. So the subject looks really in focus. One thing I wanted to show you guys that's really neat here, if I close the zoom, okay, is that you could use presets. And a lot of people like using presets because it kind of gives them a faster method of editing. I already have some presets of mine down here. And if you just hover over them, you could tell like it gives you like a bronze tone or kind of like a darker tone. This is kind of like more of a selfie tone. And then this one is just your, makes it kind of brighter and everything. And then these are the ones I downloaded. You could download it off of, if you look up like free Lightroom presets and they'll show up, and then just download it and then go ahead and import it through one of these. And then these are the Lightroom already made presets. So if you just click something like that and go through it, this one's pretty nice. It just kind of accentuates the red in the skin tone. It looks really good. Right, but personally, I don't really like to use presets, especially because every photo is a bit different from each other. So it doesn't really give you guys like the whole aspect that you really want. Alrighty, we're gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna jump in. The first thing that I like to do when I edit photos is to do auto. Like first thing I want to do is click auto, because auto just brightens everything and makes the sets all ready to go so that I can adjust it later on, because just jumping in and start moving like all these different buttons and stuff, it doesn't really help you in the long run. So you want to just go ahead and click auto, and then auto will like make the exposure brighter, click the like make the highlights less, the black deeper, and everything really is clear. Sorry, that didn't make any sense. Makes everything clear. And now, so that's how to use the exposures and stuff. The top panel right here is your light settings. So exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. Adjusting these will either lower the exposure or brighten the exposure. And then something to with when you're using portrait photography, you don't really want to go too high or too low because that really distracts the subject. So you want to just make sure it's just a little bit above or a little bit below. If you notice right here, I just like to keep in the 0.5 or the point, like below 1 at least, and then you should be good. All right. And then down here's your color settings. I personally don't like using color settings because it makes the subject too overblown. Keeping it natural is kind of key when it comes to portrait photography, especially if you're using social media. And then natural is kind of way to go. But if you like using like blue themes in your Instagram posts and you want to make everything kind of bluish and have a blue hinge, then you would just put like a slight blue tint like that. And then all of your photos would turn out with that kind of aspect. Or let's say if you wanted green is really nice. You would just change it into that kind of like a foresty outlook. And then, of course, vibrance and saturation. A lot of people get this mixed up, but you definitely want to use vibrance and not saturation because saturation makes it yellow and overblown, kind of like those memes and stuff. And then vibrance is what really gives your tones color. So you want to use vibrance, not saturation. All right. Another thing that you could do is effects. I love effects because especially when I do like an ultra zoom photo like this and I have the really blurred background, I need to change the texture because you need to soften it a lot when it comes to zoom photos or you'll get like all the peaks and bits of the person. But a lot of people do like using grain in their photos. So you would just have to move that bar right there. Alrighty. And then color noise reduction is probably your best friend when it comes to low lighting photos because it'll remove all the like overblown edges and all that like grain on the sides. And then also noise reduction does the same thing. Alrighty. And then geometry, I like to use geometry after I crop my photo. Cropping, I'm sure you guys all know what to do. Just move your sides, make it the size you like. A lot of people like aspect ratio photography, so they like to make it a certain size, like 8x5x11, or making it these different sizes. I'll go and show you guys one. A 10x16 automatically does it for you, and every picture turns out the same ratio, which is really nice. Alrighty. Now, this is the healing brush. It's probably one of my favorites, and you could tell I used it quite a bit on this subject. It's just to get rid of little blemishes and stuff that the subject probably wouldn't like in their photo, if you know what I mean, or even to just get rid of something like this, like a dust mark. Boom, gone. All right. And then this is just to accentuate certain colors. So if I were to put like pink or say, right, and then go over, it makes his hair a different color. So you would be putting pink accents on certain parts. Or if I wanted to like make this whiter, then I would make it, see how it does that to his hair. Alrighty. And then, so that's pretty much it on the editing portion of it. I'm gonna go ahead and just Control Z some of this because I did not want that. All right. Yeah, so that's that. That was a quick like tutorial of how to use Lightroom and then all the different settings that it has. So it's really innovative, it's really easy to use. And then, yeah, so another thing that I wanted to go through with you guys was like lighting, color, effects, details, optics, geometry, anything to kind of like make your photo stand out more, especially when you're doing themes. So a way that people like to use themes in their Instagram is to create a folder and kind of just drop down like all the photos that they want to use and like when they're going to post it. and then kind of lay out like the colors that they want to use. So like we said earlier about using like the blue or the red tones and how people use that to kind of create a theme is what's definitely going to make your Instagram pop out a little bit more if that's what you're going towards. For example, here's something you don't want to do when you're doing photography. I'll give you guys an example. This is when I was playing around with tones. You don't want to overblow any of that. This is a perfect example of what not to do when you're editing. You don't want to overblow the color, even though it kind of looks cool. It ruins the edge of the like mountains, and then you can also tell like all this extra color grading. It just kind of goes all over the place, and I'll show you a little bit of how that looks. You have to like overdo the color noise reduction because of how terrible like the photo looks in the lighting. Yeah, but other than that, it was a pretty cloudy day, so you weren't really going to get a good background to begin with. What you could do is change the subject view. So instead of having such a high up background, you would bring the camera down and just have like a little bit of headroom on the top and cut it off right there. I'll go and show you guys. So if you were to take the photo, this would be your subject. And like that. All right. Here's a half decent color grading. You use that by using these brushes over here. You can tell that's where one of the points are. So this is what the photo looked like before, and this is what it looked like after. Lightroom will automatically take your raw photos and then adjust all the different depths in the photo and then change the lighting accordingly to how you use your brushes. So that's pretty nice if you want to do something like that. Okay, and then you could also play around. These are low lighting photos. So a problem with using low lighting photos is that the color grading turns out all hazy like that. A way to kind of make that look better is to add grain. By adding grain, you make it look more texturized, and then add a little bit of texture. And then it kind of gives it more pop instead of just looking like a blurry photo. All right. And here's one more that I wanted to go toward, just really quick. All right. This is an aperture effect, as well as, where'd it go? This one. And the way to do these is with a flashlight, like this one, and low lighting. And it adds a little bit of pop to your feed, and in addition to making it kind of like creative and stands out a bit. And here's an, I don't know where that other one went. Wait, hold on. Nope, I don't know where it went. All right. Yeah, so that's kind of like the basics of how to use Lightroom. And then you could always share your photos and collaborate. A new feature on Lightroom is to collaborate with others to edit your photos. So that's pretty cool. You could just share a link and then everyone would be able to edit your photos with you.
So Jade, we had a couple questions in the chat or in the Q&A so far. One of them was, so when you're thinking about pre-planning your posts in order to keep a consistent theme, what are some of the tips that you do, and what are some of the ways that you're able to keep, say, your own personal theme consistent?
Personally, I would say you could either lay it out in Pinterest. Pinterest is a good idea to kind of like get your ideas and then lay out your own form before posting it to social media. You could always create like private folders and then store it in there. Another thing I'd like to do is put folders, constant folders. I have on my desktop, I have a folder called camera where I put all my raw images, and then I sort them out by like shoot dates and then which ones I'm going to edit, and then my final editing photos. And then I go in and lay them out and say like, I will post this on this date, and then on this date and this date, and then it'll just go through like that. Yeah.
One of the attendees joined late, and they were wondering if you could go over how you got those flash streaks again in the After Effects.
Oh yeah. Alrighty, let's go and share that again. All right, you were talking about the aperture, correct? Something like this.
Yeah.
All right, so to create that photo is kind of more or less with your camera. It's more of a camera setting versus an editing setting. The only thing that I did in editing was blow it so that it was sharper and kind of retained more of that line image versus just like a blur. So what you want to do is create on your camera. Oh, I forgot what it was called. Anyways, so you change the aperture rate to like 2 seconds instead of the normal like click second in your settings. And then when you take the photo, it'll lapse for 2 seconds. All you would have to do is turn the light on your phone or flashlight or something and just go across for 2 seconds and it would capture an image like this. After that, you would just go into your settings, make the black tones darker so that the light shows up more. And that would be that.
They're also wondering for the other After Effects photo that you showed briefly beforehand with the seemingly like twirls.
Lights, right?
Yeah.
Did that
Is that similar to this one? Or
yeah, that's exactly the same. If I zoom in right here, you could tell we had like a little battery packed, like one of those room lights that you put across, and she just swung that in a circle. I think I put about 5 seconds on the aperture rate, so that it could capture all that glow. And it was really hard too, because we had like maybe 10 takes before we got something good like that. So it takes time, but you'll eventually get something good like that.
For sure. Was there anything else you wanted to show us when it comes to like editing wise before we dive into the questions?
Let's see. Well, I think one of the main things in social media is kind of attracting an eye right away and making sure that things kind of like bring an aesthetic. And I kind of wanted to talk about that through Pinterest. So I'm going to go and pop that up real quick. Give me a second here.
Yeah, any questions you may come up with, please drop them in the Q&A section of the chat. It's a little on the bottom of your Zoom. You should see Q&A right next to the live transcript. Any questions you have, don't be afraid to drop it in the Q&A part.
Great. All right, so let me go and show you guys my screen real quick. So one thing that I really like to do when helping people make their Instagram themes is to go on Pinterest, because Pinterest gives you so many ideas, and you could choose a black and white theme, more like warmer sepia tones. You can even go in and get ideas from other people that are using like quotes and reds. You don't always have to take photos of yourself, nor like portrait themes. You can always change it up and take pictures of like your shoes or objects or your food, just to kind of spice up your theme a little bit. In addition to that, a lot of people like to use whites. I call it whites and dark themes. So light themes kind of bring more attraction, more liveliness to your feed. Although the night dark theme kind of bring more of an edgy tone to it. So sorry, not edgy. Night themes and dark themes kind of steer away more from the whole portrait photography and kind of stay more on the aesthetic forms of like hands, items, food, anything kind of like to do with away from the portrait side. And then lighter themes like where to go, like this, kind of more focused towards the subject itself. So when you're creating photography for yourself, you just kind of want to use more of a lighter theme. But if you're just doing it for the aesthetic portion of it, then I would say go with a darker theme. Either way, it brings attention to the subject in Instagram in general, which will get people to come to your page. Another thing when you're creating subject photos in your themes is that you want to pay attention to where you are in the photo. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it actually does attract more people having you or the subject in a certain position on the Instagram feed. So having someone kind of like this one, I'll use this one as an example. She's always kind of like in the middle. And a lot of people don't notice that just like right off the bat, but she's always kind of stands in the middle, which she tends to be the center of focus, right? But then you can always change it up. I don't think anyone, yeah, no one here does it, but I'll just use this one. You can always put, oh, here you go. So you can always put a portrait, a filler. It's called a filler content when you just kind of like take a picture of an object that matches the aesthetic. And then let's say she put another portrait of herself like this one. And that one brings attention to the eye because it just kind of is like, oh, well, she put, this might not get as many likes because it's a filler content, but the two objects around it match the aesthetic of the feed, which makes this look aesthetically pleasing. Oh, and then you can also look at Instagram grid patterns. These are really nice for trying to see like if you should go for darker photos or lighter photos or do a fade or a double alternative. And this one kind of brings attention. This one could also be for where to put your filler photos. So you could put your filler photos in the middle, on the ends, alternatingly. You can even do them across and diagonal. So there's multiple different ways to do that. And then another thing that caught my attention was down here. Posing is a huge, like, what do I do moment in social media and taking pictures. And especially as a photographer, it's kind of like being a director for the subject themselves to kind of tell them different angles, which way to pose, which one would accentuate the best features they have. And that's kind of like a specialty of mine is posing. I love being able to direct like shapes into people and making things less rectangle and more like surroundingly, because if you broaden the photo, it brings more attention to the subject. Although if you put too much in the photo, that could bring attention away from the subject. Kind of how we said, if there's too many background items, that might ruin the photo a bit. So I'm going to show you like this one. Instead of standing like straight up and looking square, leaning to the side not only gives you that curve that she has right here, the triangle shape, but also gives it the accentuation that there's more happening in the photo than just a rectangle and box kind of. Another thing right here, she uses triangles to kind of accentuate her leg and show off her features. Curves and triangles are probably your best friend when it comes to posing. If something looks too straight and angular, try to spice it up a bit by adding curves or adding triangles, because curves can be hard sometimes, so you could do triangles. I'll go ahead and show you guys also in Lightroom how I did that. All right, we're gonna go and show you this subject right here. So what I did for her as a theme was kind of alternatively changing between close-up and also far away photos. So I would have her move every like 2 photos. I would just keep snapping. I'd have her move. I'd be like, okay, grab your ponytail, lift the leg up. Having her lift the leg up kind of gives her more of a curvature to it. So it doesn't look like if she would put her foot straight down and just hold her hand, it doesn't really give much life to the photo versus adding the leg up. Another thing, let's see. Yeah, so this one is less about curvature and more about adding things to the subject. So sometimes if the subject were to look too bland, just with what they're wearing, you can always throw in like a phone or a coat, or let's say like flowers or something, to bring an additional prop to the photo to make it stand out. Right. This is probably one of my favorite parts of the shoot was the blue look. The theme was sadness. So she had to kind of like hunch over and feel like you have to bring emotion to the photo essentially. So hunching over, making this triangle look right here, another triangle look right here, here, all that brings attention to the photo because it gives it like meaning. And then symmetry is also a really good one. Having symmetry in your photos really has that like human attraction to it. So right away, it gives that like aesthetic look to it. And here's another example. If you do kind of like a close-up photo, having symmetry in your photo is probably one of the best things you could do because there's not much you could do otherwise in the posing aspect of it. All right, and then one more, tilting. So don't ignore the red eye. I didn't get rid of it in Lightroom, only in Photoshop. But tilting is really good because sometimes staying stagnant isn't like the most attractive thing ever. So tilting just to the side or just leaning a little bit to the side or tilting this way or tilting that way could bring a little bit more interesting tones to your posing, which is really good. I like this one just because she looks like Scooby-Doo or something. But yeah, so that's kind of like how to spice up your feed a bit when it comes to like posing, making angles, and also theme creating. All right, let me go ahead and stop sharing. Yeah.
Thank you. You brought up while you were going through the Pinterest about how to spice up your feed, like those filler photos and taking photos and editing of those that aren't the person themselves. Would it be possible to go through a demonstration of you editing a photo that's not with a person? That could be, say, an object that could be used for a filler.
Yeah, so let me see if I do have any. But yeah, most of the time what you want to kind of do is just keep consistent when taking photos of things that don't really like, how do I say this? It could be everyday things. Like you could see like an old couple walking down the street and then take a picture of their shoes, and that would be kind of like cute and symbolic. Another thing is, oh, here we go. Okay, so let me just go and share this again. Okay, it's not really filler wise, but this doesn't have any facial in it, and you could still tell like the colors match, and then that this is a subject and that they were doing going to like, let's say, an event or something. And this is nice as a filler because you could just throw it in and people get that there's something happening here just by the looks of it. And this is like something nice to put between, like, let's say like two prompt photos or something. Let me see if I have anything else. You could also put a car if you're into cars and you have a nice like car or something. Putting something like this right between your two subject themes would be really nice because not only is it like, oh, my Instagram handle, but it's also kind of like something you just put in there. It doesn't really have a subject, but it's cute. And then I really don't edit that many fillers. I guess keys are kind of like a filler. Sometimes keys are fillers. I took this for a photo assignment, so you know what, this doesn't count. Yeah, but you could put pretty much anything in between. It could be like fruit. A lot of people like using fruit. Fruit or food. You could put boba. Like if I just, it'd be so funny if you just get something like, let's say this, right? Ignore my face. And then you just crop it. You go in here, you just slide that down, right? And you just boop, boop. And also zooming in on like the most random objects sometimes is like a really aesthetically pleasing filter or filler, and I don't know why. And you just do something like that and you just clarify it a little bit and then put some hella green on it, and there you go. That's a filler. I don't know. Don't ask me. People like it. They think it's aesthetically pleasing. But I mean, in all doubt, zoom into the photo. Zooming in will definitely bring more life to the photo than something that has no meaning to it at all.
For sure. Thank you. We garnered a couple questions in the Q&A while you were going through it, so we'll just start to address them now. The first one would be advice for people who can't really find creative ways to make their feed interesting. I know you brought up fillers. Was there any other way that you think you could spice up your feed?
So not in the feed itself, but actually in the stories. So I have a good friend, her name is Ruby Snowberg. She's a model for Victoria's Secret's Pink right now. I'll go ahead and show you her Instagram. Let me see if I can pop it up. Ruby Snowberg. She's really good at managing her feed and stuff like that. Let me see. Give me 1 second. Yeah, but she's really good at creating stories often and adding like random questionnaires and stuff so that people keep interacting with her Instagram. And that's how she kind of keeps active with that. But let me go and show you an example. I just blacked out my feed for work, so I can't really show mine as an example right now, but I'll go and show you right here. She sorts them out kind of like by just little stuff that she does and that she adds onto her feed. And then she doesn't really keep a theme to her photos per se, but she does keep like subject matter. So she knows how to like put herself in frame. Oh, all right. And then also, so always having a subject in frame. And then also she does put a lot of, I don't know where it is. She puts a lot of filler photos in her lapse photos. So, but where? I don't know. Yeah, so something like this, just like a random dingy photo. It doesn't have to look cute. It like could be anything you take on a daily basis and just splash it in there. Like the one post I have right now, because I exited my feed, is I have a lot of just daily life stuff. Like this was a kind of like a candid shot. Everyone's just relaxing on the beach. It didn't really have anything to do with the photo like dump or anything, but these are just like aesthetic photos that I like, and that keeps up with that. So just keeping track of like always taking photos, always like being aware of your surroundings, and even like the little stuff around you in your room alone can be satisfactory for like a feed. Like it doesn't have to be anything creative per se. Like I could take a picture of my two hats back there and that would probably be a good enough for a filler as long as it has good lighting. So yeah, so and when in doubt, take a picture of anything.
Great. Another question are, what are some of the pet peeves you have in social media feed layouts, and what are some things that you think people should stay away from in terms of creating that?
Selfies. Oh my god, like Snapchat selfies in particular, like having a filter, like a Snapchat filter over the picture and then posting that picture again on Instagram is just it's a huge pet peeve of mine, because you didn't take any time and effort to like make the photo nice. You just, I look cute this day, let me snap a selfie. There's so many different ways you could have gone with that. You could have asked someone to take a picture. You could have put your phone on like the floor or something and like make a couple poses, but no, you decided to take a Snapchat picture and post it on your Instagram feed where it's going to stay there permanently. And that's kind of like a pet peeve of mine. I have another one, and it's a strong pet peeve, is when people keep the same 5 posts rotating in like different social media apps, and then they repost them because it didn't get enough likes or it didn't get enough whatevers in the same consecutive week. So me too. But so basically like posting a photo, oh my god, it only got 1,000 likes, let me delete it and repost it 2 days later. That post would have gone above and beyond if you left it the way it was for a week. You would have been totally satisfactory with it. when in doubt, archive and post something different. If it didn't get enough likes the first time, don't expect it to get more likes on the second repost, because that just annoys everyone.
Well, that actually transitioned to the next question. Since people seem to have so much trouble with finding that consistency within their content and they're struggling, they're having to repost, are there any tips that you have to stay consistent with your content so you're not rehashing the same things over and over and over again?
Yeah, like make a timeline for yourself. If you feel like you need to post daily, it's not going to work out, and people will actually get annoyed with you if you post too much and they'll unfollow you. I've had a few people that I knew where they would just consistently post and they were like, I'm losing followers. I wonder why. It's because you're spamming people's Instagrams feeds with the same stuff every day. Like taking a picture of your food and then your face and then your food and your food and your food. It's like, we get it. You like have good photography skills for your food. A way to spread it out a bit is to kind of post every like 1.5 weeks. That's kind of like, or 1 week, every 1.5 weeks is kind of like the prime spot for not annoying too many people too much, but also keeping like in touch with being on people's feeds and not being forgotten. Because if you post in too long of a span of time, like a month or something per se, like once a month, people will kind of like unfollow you because they're like, why am I following them to begin with? I have no reason to. They don't create anything new except for once a month. And that's kind of like, you just want to stay consistent with posting. If that's kind of like what you're going towards. If not, a lot of people do like to post like on their actual feed, like once every 3 months, but they'll spam their stories. And you know what? It works out and it checks out and people like it. So if you want to do it that way, and that's kind of like your route because you don't really have that much content to post, go ahead. But I kind of would stay away from that if you're trying to become like an influencer-ish. Another way is to not stack your photos when you're posting them. So instead of posting like 3 photos in one post, post them separately, and that way you'll always have like more photos to post.
And then the final live question we got before we're able to go into the Q&A portion that we already have is, so say someone's interested in hiring a photographer to help with the social media. Are there certain sites that you would recommend in order to find those people? And what would you consider a fair rate to paying a photographer if you're trying to be that influencer?
Okay, so in all honesty, I worked at JCPenney Portraits and we were not getting paid enough. I'll just tell you that much. It definitely makes you open your eyes about how much a photographer should be paid because they have to bring their equipment and they have to wait and they have to drive to you. That's travel time. That's also editing time. They have to edit your photos as well. And then on top of that, importing, exporting, all that time frame is like enough to pay them a good chunk of money. But if you have a friend who's like a photographer or something and they're willing to just a couple photos for you every once in a while, then I'd say that's good enough. Hiring a photographer should only be for certain events and not for a social media feed, in my honesty opinion, because photographers do a lot into their time, and hiring them for something as simple as like an Instagram post. I mean, if you haven't posted in a year or so, if you're like, I need one post for my feed, then yeah, go ahead and hire one because hey, a shoot's a shoot. But if you're consistently hiring one, you better have like a lot of money to put them on like a monthly subscription or something. I'll just put it that way. And it's as simple as, putting your phone on a wall and just putting the self timer on and posing. I mean, you don't have to have professional photos to be on Instagram. If you want, I mean, just ask a stranger by right here. Can you snap a couple photos for me? I'm sure somebody knows how to operate a camera.
That's exactly what I did last night. I went to the Dodgers game, just asked some random stranger, hey, can you take a picture of me and my boys? And it turned out to be a great photo. So I didn't have any complaints.
Exactly.
All right, so thank you for that. That will conclude the live editing and tutorial portion. We're going to be moving on into our moderated Q&A portion. So these are all questions that we've garnered. We'll be leading up to the event that some of our attendees want to know. So the first one is, what made you personally decide to go into photography and editing? You know, you said it earlier, it's actually not your major. So then why do you consider this like one of your, say, hobbies or something you're really interested in?
Well, what do you call it? Film production was actually my main major at one point. um, I won't disclose why I dropped it. But I've always loved film and video photography. I've like always been into it since probably say my elementary school days. Um, I have a couple like peers and mentors that are part of my family and friends, and they just kind of like got me into it. And then they like showed me some tips and tricks, and then from there I just did a lot of like self-studying, and then also going to like camps and stuff, so I could really like hone into my craft, if that makes sense.
Speaking of studying, were there any YouTube channels in particular or certain sites that you would always like was your go-to? Okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. These people are the professionals. They'll help me out. They know the right answer.
um in all honesty, I'm the type of person to just look up like how to use aperture on camera or how to use presets. Like, I kid you not, before this meeting started, because I don't personally use presets that much, I was like, how to download free presets. And like it was like a 3-minute tutorial. It's that easy. If I could teach you after watching a 3-minute tutorial, then it's not that hard to just look up on YouTube like specifically what you need, and there's like hundreds of videos. If you don't like one, go to the rest. And then the way from you, like a way that I organize it, if the video was like really helpful and I know, oh my God, I'm gonna forget this, then I usually like the video or I put it into a playlist. And that's kind of like how to go back and remember things.
Oh, for sure. Really quickly, Jade, could you turn your camera on and off again? Because you're freezing in and out sometimes on your camera. Your audio is
Yeah,
fine, but it's just the camera now and then.
my Zoom's just not responding. I can't even
Right.
click.
It happens to the best of us, I guess. It proves we're
All
all
right.
human here.
We'll just there you
There
go.
we go. Now we're back. Amazing.
All right. If I log out, my apologies.
It's all good. Another kind of personal one. What's the coolest place you've taken a photo? Or if you could give us the top three.
Okay. Number one, I don't know, it's called the Anaheim something or transit center. It's so nice. It's got a bunch of wonderful colors, and it's great for car photography, actually. Another place that's really good for portrait photography are like parking lots. You'd be surprised how many good parking structures make great photography backgrounds, because there's no like distracting background and it's all kind of green. And also, my favorite city to take photos in, cities, is like Claremont Upland, because the greens there are so nice. Lots of green, so it gives you like a really big pop in your photos.
Great.
This is my top three.
Top three. I love it. I'm personally, I'm from Ireland, so every time I see some green, I love it. It reminds me of home. So,
That's the way
um,
to go.
so for people first getting into photography, were there any cameras that you started out with that you could recommend for beginners that don't really have the money to spend on like a $400 or $500 camera? iPhone, just go with the iPhone.
iPhone. You know what? This was my first camera. I kid you not. It, like I said, it's a EOS, Canon, M50. Literally, David Dobrik started out with this camera. That's how reliable it is. 90% of YouTubers use this camera because this thing is so small and sturdy, and it comes with like a little grip botch. And this thing was like $200. I kid you not. It's cheap, it's effective. I mean, hey, set up a GoFundMe if you want. People will dive into it. You know what? In middle school, I kid you not, I think I set up a GoFundMe for like a nice camera, and I had like a couple aunties like pop into that. They were like, "All right, here's a couple $100. Divulge yourself," but don't expect a Christmas present. And another thing that's great about this camera is that it has a revolving digital monitor, so that if you record yourself like this, you can see what's going on. And it's also touchscreen, which is nice. But what I do suggest is if you're going to vlog or take videos, get a microphone. This thing is like super tiny. I kid you not. It's microscopic. And it was like maybe fit $40. It's not that expensive. It most of your equipment you could get from like eBay also. eBay is a great place to like kind of like find cheap equipment that were originally expensive. And the only thing that's wrong with it is like it's dusty and it doesn't work. You could take it to like a professional cleaning spot and they'll like fix it for $10. I had a friend who did that. But I think the most expensive thing when it comes to photography is lenses. Like this lens right here is like $1,200 and it was gifted to me. I was not going to spend that money, but it's a really nice zoom lens. I'll just put it that way. And then there's also free lenses you could find at if you get lucky. You could find free cheap like $5 or free lenses at people's yard sales. I know it's COVID, so like be careful, but pre-COVID, I used to bike around the neighborhood, and I kind of live in a neighborhood with like a bunch of old people, and they would sell their lenses for like dirt cheap. Like I'll show you real quick. I got 3 lenses for $10, and these things are nice. You just gotta make sure they're compatible with like what camera you have. These are nice, and I got them for $15. So if I could do it, you probably find it too.
How do you spell that camera? Because they're asking in the chat the name of it so they can go to the
It's a Canon M, like the letter M, like Michael, and then 50.
Perfect. There you go. Thank you so much.
There's also the Rebel T7, or just Rebel anything, T something is really good for like professional photography.
The people were wondering, we have to know, are there any current projects you're working on that you can share or let us know about that you're, whether it be just for yourself or a photography job you may have? Is there any current projects you have?
Okay, I got commissioned from a multi-millionaire to photograph his car because he's getting a brand new Lotus something. I don't know what it is, sports car that they made like 1 out of 100, and he's like, I gotta have you like photograph this. But I'll go in and show you his other car that I did photograph. Here we go. And then I photograph rallies pretty often as well. So that's kind of like where I meet my clientele, if that's where you're like struggling to get clientele from. Where's his car? I don't know. Missing. Okay, it's a GTR. And then, oh, that's a Lamborghini. You know why? It's because that's kind of like the zoomed photos. Oh my God, I don't even know where his car is. Ooh, missing. Hold on. We'll find this. Oh, okay. This is the guy. And he was like, I'll pay you X amount of dollars to come fly out and take photos of my car in front of like a beach or something. And I was like, all right, let me know.
How did you make those connections if you don't? I'm actually now personally curious myself how you're getting flown out, you got multimillionaires basically like begging you on their knees to get you to get these photos done. I'm curious myself.
No, not begging, no begging. Just you know what, you gotta be bold. I'll tell you that much. You gotta be bold. You gotta like one thing is car rallies. There's so many of them. You meet some crazy people through these things. Like if you ever heard of Daniel Mack on TikTok, where he's like, what do you do for a living? And he goes up to these people with these like really expensive cars. He's going to the same events as me. They're called car rallies. And the one I photographed or reached out to was Divine Rally. And it was like one of their first rallies. I think it was the second rally they ever had. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what this is, but can I come and photograph? And the entrance fee was like $300. But I was like, yo, get me in for free and I'll send you all the photos. And he was like, yeah, bet. So the coordinator let me come. I like connected with a bunch of people, and then people would ask me for like the photos that I took. And then I would just kind of like make conversation with them, like, hey, like, what do you do for a living now? And then they would be like, oh my God, I really like your photography. I have a buddy, he wants to group up, or they want to group up or whatever, and we want to take some like group photos or something. And I'd be like, great. And then those buddies will, they will tell their buddies are going to connect with me, or I would connect with them or something like that. And then we would just kind of like make a plan, make a date, and don't be afraid. Okay, a lot of people are like, your work shouldn't be free. Don't be afraid to do free work. Don't be afraid to do free work. If you literally do one free photo shoot, it'll make you so much more money in the long run versus being like charging them like an expensive rate and then them not liking the photos, and that's it, you've lost all your customers and everything in the long term. So yeah, so car rallies, it's the way to go.
And then the final two questions we have here are, pardon me.
You get the Christian?
Yeah, sorry, I just choked up, as you can tell. In your spare time, when it comes to like not photo editing, is there like other things you do in particular that helps you like hone in on your skills, like things that aren't directly related to computer skills, but could be like little brain games or things you just do without even realizing that you notice help you with your photography and editing skills?
I read a lot of manga. I watch a lot of anime. I'm a weeb, I'll be honest. But you know what's so funny is because reading like comic books and manga and stuff will actually give you like not only aesthetic ideas, subject ideas, so much creativity ideas. And also another thing is like webtoons. I'm a total geek. I'll just put that out there. Okay. Oh no, my secret's exposed. But watching a lot of like anime and manga and reading a lot of manga will actually surprisingly give you a lot of inspiration. I'll just pop one out here real quick. Great portrait. Has the subject in focus, has like triangles. I could point out like 5 things on here that makes it a masterpiece. Like that's, I guess that helps me. I don't know. It also gives you posing ideas, which is really strange. You might, people are always stuck with posing. Manga is a great place to find posing ideas, and you never knew. So.
All right, well, this is going to be towards the end of our event, so we're just going to wrap it up pretty much. So first, we would like to say thank you so much, Jade, for taking time out of your busy student schedule. We completely understand how crazy it can be having such like a crazy cool hobby you're getting paid for, and also managing to be a student. So we want to thank you. We really appreciate you taking your time out here. But for those in attendance, yes, this is going to be the end of the event. We're super excited you could come out and make it. It's our first event, so we're trying new things out here at AS Productions. So we would love it if we could hear all of your feedback. Once the webinar ends, you'll be prompted to take a little quick survey, just a couple questions, like 3 or 4. Most of them are scale-based, so you don't really gotta type much. But we just want to know how you thought of the event, what you thought of us, and if there's anything we can do in the future to help improve this event, or any other topics that you may want to have covered. I know we've talked possibly about video editing, brand marketing, how to really become a quote-unquote influencer, because who really knows what that term is anymore. But we would love to hear your feedback. But other than that, again, thank you so much, Jade, for taking time out of your day to come and stop by and be with us.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming.